Live from our studios, this is still Enterprise, a weekend on Enterprise television. And now to our main conversation for today. Press freedom is on the decline, and there is a shrinking of the civic space under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a group of civil society and media organization has observed.
Right. The Coalition Action Group on the Protection of Civic Actors, in a jointly signed statement, showed deep concern about the growing cases of attacks on press freedom and the flagrant abuse of due process and the rule of law by the Nigerian police.
Yes, and with the specific case of arrest of journalist Daniel Ojukwu and many more who have been detained for their work, this exemplifies a total disregard for the rule of law and democratic principle by the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who himself was part of the fight for the protection of press freedom and the rule of law during military dictatorship. And still with us in the studios to do justice to these and more is Cyril Abaku. Thank you so very much for hanging around.
My pleasure.
Yes. So I'd love you to speak to particularly the issue of press freedom and declining nature of civic space in Nigeria, especially in the last 9 months.
So let me speak for myself by saying that, frankly, one didn't think that this would be the situation. In the political space, the president may have enough enemies to contend with. But in the civic space, the president has not just enough friends, but also sufficient goodwill to last him, let's even say a lifetime, loosely speaking. I would have thought that when I mean civic space, labor unions, the liberal class, basically, liberal society, labor unions, the media, civil society groups, even NGOs. Because this president has enormous goodwill. You know, the way in which we've seen even his own personal gaffes, or is it gaffes or gaffes?
Yeah.
Gaffes. When you see the way they would have eaten any other president raw, the media is a bit shy of attacking the president or taking him head on.
And why do you think it's so?
No, that's where I'm going, because it's like his own constituency. He is in politics, right? But so the president contested for and won Senate presidency in 1993. Abiola was in the SDP. They were all in the SDP. After that, the whole thing was botched. They fought for the restoration of democracy. The reports we had was that Mr. President was very much in the trenches and fought for the restoration of democracy. That war was fought both by politicians who are concerned, people, lecturers, like I said, the liberal class, lecturers, journalists, the media, lawyers. The NBA was very effective, Akabashorum and co. So the president was part and parcel of this group that fought Abacha to stand still, as they like to say. You know, when somebody who is keen is doing something, the way you look at it may be different from when an outsider is doing it. I don't know if you feel the same way. The way you treat a Nigerian overseas may not be the same way you treat a Swede somehow there's the feeling that he's one of us. Let's give him time. Let's understand with him. So that's really the picture of things. I would have thought. I thought all this ASU strike, NLC strike, TUC and co, NMA, because it's the president's constituency, he wouldn't have to wait until they want, or that they wouldn't have any need to, that he would have proactively engaged with them and so on. That was my personal thinking. But I think that the evidence on our hands now proves otherwise. And this goes, there's a long list. The NMA, the ARD, resident doctors, were asking for their emoluments and their arrears, payments and stuff like that. They didn't get anything until they went on strike. Then they were paid. I said, why is this situation? The NLC too, they are neither here nor there. The NLC has really actually weakened now. But I didn't think that at the time the president said subsidy was gone, that he wouldn't also take steps immediately to talk with NLC, agree on minimum wage, and and we move on. That, but till now, no minimum wage. So, and then you come to now the story of Daniel Ojukwu and Segun Olatunji of First Nation.
Yeah.
They were not arrested. These guys were abducted, basically. And so first of all, how does the security agencies abduct a citizen in the name of arrest? Nobody knew where they were until reports filtered out. When terrorists now kidnap people, what is the moral? I thought that the state is supposed to be exemplum, or to act over and above board, so that So what then gives is it because they are not the government? Is it because Boko Haram is not the government? Why should the police and in the case of Olatunji, I think it was around Yenokpaja in Lagos here. They went. It was not even army or police. It was not even Navy Air Force. It was Defense Intelligence Agency. Those are people that you don't even hear their names often. Defense Intelligence. Those are people that you should never even see.
Right. Sacrosanct.
Defense Intelligence. There is the NIA. That is the national. That was our own version of the CIA.
Right.
Those are groups that you will never hear of them. You only see their work. As far as there's peace in society, then they're at work. Now, it was defense. Honestly, I don't know how often those people even are deployed in terms of to undertake, because usually most of what they do will be, what do you call them now? Undercover activities. To understand how they went, who did, they took him, nobody knew where he had been taken. Now, if that can happen, why can't kidnappers also tomorrow? These guys like that,
take that same fashion.
And Judas, and who will go after when we hear that the other one that happened last week was government?
Oh, so serious.
I'm coming, sorry. Okay. Now, so with these examples are many, and it's not just civic space, Henry and Chinori. Even in the political space, the PDP is dying. And whereas I'm not a member of any political party, anybody who understands democracy understands that you need certain pillars for any house to stand. Democracy, not any different. Is it the president's work to make the PDP stand? No, it is not his work, of course. But just to let you know that we are in times in which journalists are afraid to do that. You can look at our national dailies. Go and read, check back 10, 20 years ago, how they worked. And in the past 1 year, they kind of headlines that a national daily will carry somebody's press release and make the banner story. You see where I'm going now? So the press is, when you say they are atrophying, which means that they are suffering from leukemia when blood is. They are atrophying. They are wilting. If to borrow the image of flowers, they are wilting. That's one. Then number two is the fact that a lot of those people, ask yourself, all those groups that are very active from the Ojota riot or protest against Occupy Nigeria. Where are they today? Is it the same Nigeria in which Buhari took subsidy away and they became lame? Buhari was mismanaging everything. They were blind. Where the farther he went with his maladministration, they became lame, they became blind, they became deaf, they became dumb. And this is President Tinubu's time. All those groups, where are they today? Are you aware that there are the same people who are fighting for Yaya Bello now? There was a coalition of groups that came together to say Yaya Bello should be allowed, should be left. That the S was persecuting him. Go and check the groups now. I can name them, but I don't want to. So those are the same. Those groups are not the ones fighting for Yaya Bello. So when you see this thing, whether they are active or not, is not even the issue. If they act, what are they active for? And what is the impact of the activity on the political space? It is in reverse. So if the report says that the space is shrinking, I would say it is atrophying. Okay,
so I like that you have mentioned a couple of things. Even though the media that I know is the watchdog of every society, in this case, it's looking like the media is a fifth columnist. But tell us why you think things are the way it is. I mean, Tinubu is a honcho in the media, allow me to use that word. And he's someone that when he came on stream, he talked about press freedom. even though largely we see that the press has been gagged, I mean, so gagged. But there's a flagrant disregard for due process. The media has an ombudsman, that's a given. But there's a process. If you feel maligned either by slander or libel, then go to court. But we see that there's a recurrence in terms of just picking up journalists. I feel really, I mean, this is sickening. Tell us what sort of leadership you think that Tinubu has brought on that is making the entire space, the way it is.
Now, it may not be correct to say the president is responsible for what is going on. That may not be, I have no evidence to corroborate that point. But what the report is saying is that it is on his watch. It is under his stewardship, his time, that this is what? Happening.
Right.
And we can't write history otherwise. Under Buhari, things got so bad that Punch had to now say they will be prefixing his name with his military title because his behavior was more reflective of his military past than of so-called democratic conversion, whatever that meant. You remember that Tell magazine under Obasanjo, at the point they did it for a front story. He was not happy. They called him Abacha. That he was a civilian president, he was behaving like Abacha. They called him Abacha. He was not happy at all. But the truth of the matter is that stories must be written. And stories are only good stories the best are written when the press is free to write what it knows is right to be written. Now, the president, you said why it's happening on his watch. What I will think is this. I think that with these two cases alone, all right, Mr. President should step out if he's aware. And again, what your advisors do tell you also matters. I don't know how informed he is about what's going on. And he himself, being a stakeholder in the media industry,
right,
all right, has to hold himself out above the board and say, above boss rather, and say, my government is committed to upholding the tenets of freedom of the press, and tell the IG of police, do not do anybody's bidding. If any, look at Daniel Ojuku's case, taken to Panti, then nobody knew where he had gone. They seized his phones from him. Then the next thing, it took 9. He was in prison. He was there for 9 days. What is it for? I thought the law said if you arrest anybody under 48 hours, you should charge. You see, there's something in this country where, and it will end one day, where people say, if you try to, I will lock him up. They will not see him for 1 month. I don't know what gives big people the impression that they can. But if this can happen and there will be no investigation as to who wrote the petition and why the police thought detaining for 9 days was solution to the petition, and the president now says, okay, whoever did that thing, fire the, if it's my appointee, I let go of you. Maybe if he does that, it will send the message that as a president is not willing to tolerate such nonsense. But until we set examples of some people, you hear that often. If he tries now, lock him up, they will not see me again for the next 1 month. It is because our institutions are weak. There's fatigue. It is even lucky that they trace it to Panti. Do you know Henry and James? Do you know that there are journalists who have been taken like this, and the last had been heard of them?
That's the end.
And nobody heard anything about them anymore. It took a coalition of groups to fight for Segun Olatunji, the First Nation guy, when they even heard that it was defense intelligence. Now it has taken another coalition of groups again to fight for Daniel Ojuku. So if this is a descent, then it's a descent, because it means anything you do, before you know, it will take the whole country to fight for one person to be, and they've arrested him. Nobody knows where the person is. Then when they manage to know, they now start fighting until the person is released. If you don't like what I wrote in my paper, if I take me to court.
Of course, it's a process.
You don't do this thing, because the president has a lot of goodwill in the media. But I can tell you, possibly If the mainstream media will not do the job, then believe me, at a point, if this continues, there will be a revolt, not a revolt on the road, but you see people will revolt against this government. And since those who should write the truth can't write the truth anymore, you know you can't bury the truth for too long. It will develop wings and feet, it will come out. So I think something ought to be done. This pattern is not at all conducive to democracy.
All right, so before we coast home, let's take a look at, you talked about not holding particularly the president responsible for what is going, but let's take a look at leadership character traits. And you say it, obviously and unfortunately, it's happening under his very watch. A situation where other parties are saying that we're about to have a one-party state, a winner takes it all, approach to the politics that we practice today in Nigeria. And of course, President Bola Tinubu being allegedly one man who loves it so much, a winner takes all, and operating from a particular, a place. Do you think this is really not a far cry, from what people expect, knowing that this is his antecedents, especially as we have it in Lagos State, where he actually set sail?
When it comes to the politics of it, what I think, I always say that I have a strong political side to me, even if I wouldn't do some of those things, but I understand politics fairly well. If anybody, not the president, if anybody is sponsoring division in the PDP and making the members to leave the party, which rule book said that division can also happen in the APC? Who said so? That what I think is it algebra Botman that said what you do to the left hand side, you also do to the right hand side. I think is it that Botman's algebra? I can't remember. So if there's nobody that said if somebody has the money to sponsor an outcome in the party, that party does not have what it takes to sponsor an outcome in the other party. So that's for politics. But the only thing I think the president must do, now we have elections coming up in Ondo and in Edo, right? What he owes Nigerians is simple. Those elections should be free and fair. It is the way to do this thing. When people are confident in the system, you don't need to make it free and fair. All right? And then for me, in Nigeria today, to have fair elections, you must do what I call scientify the process. Use technology, please. Why can't we do electronic voting? What's the big deal in it? I always give this example. You can trust your money to come out of an ATM machine. Your money. You can trust to have your money reduced to a card. You know what I mean? You can afford to have your money reduced, even if it's 1 billion. You can have it on a card that you can walk to a corner of the road and say UPS machine operator, and you can withdraw the money. Why can't we also have elections conducted with a fingerprint and assuming you can say, okay, election day, you don't even need to travel too far. Why can't we universalize the election process in Nigeria?
And knowing that every adult Nigerian is captured in the data.
If you Catholicize it, I can be in Lagos here, vote for the president, and I can even vote for 2 states, frankly speaking. My state of origin, because we are very big on where you come from.
Exactly.
Is that not so? And where I reside, we can pay taxes here. When we say diaspora vote, diaspora Nigerians can vote for the president of that country, and we are saying that they should vote for Nigeria. So I can vote for the president in my country from anywhere. Vote for the governor of the state in which I stay. Vote for the governor of the state where I'm from, right? Vote for then the place I'm living. I can vote for my assembly, local government council chairman, councillor, senator, and even reps. I can do I can even vote for those same people in the state where I come from. So we can do this thing. But when you want to continue to elections, you say election is next Friday. You postpone. You allow them to spend all the money. But after the other party has spent a lot of money, election day comes. You now say I will postpone by 2 weeks. So when they have more money to spend, then election day comes. People will be waiting to vote. They will hear that they've declared the winner. When you run the process this way, why won't the opposition parties die? The president understands democracy very well. If you think he does not, then you are he understands very. I think what he should even sponsor. an executive bill that says not all parties should even run for president. You don't have to. You can you can recalibrate in America. There are more parties than you think, but the two parties, because of television coverage. Okay, so you can have 4 parties running for president, then the other parties, depending on size, go and content. I can look, if you did that, look at Israel. Is that not what they do in Israel? I can tell that if you did that, you will strengthen them, because people will not believe the democracy will be strengthened. 2 4 like minds can come together and say, you know what, let's form a party. All we want is our local government area, and they'll develop it. And they don't need more than that. But we won't do these things. We'll be talking. Look at all mainland bridge that they said they have. I'm sorry that I'm digressing, and I'll just wrap with that. I showed it to Barrister Feli. He was watching the video of Tom mainland bridge that they finished work, and I was skeptical. He said, "They've done something good. Why can't you commend it?" I kept quiet. Now, upon the only propaganda about somebody riding a bicycle and the bridge is now fine in the night, are you aware that they want to do resurfacing? I don't know where the resurfacing came from. But mark what I tell you, for the next 20 years, that Mainland Bridge, right, it will not go out of it. There will always be reason to it, because I think it is a lucrative bridge to maintain. When will all of this end?
Yes, and this brings us to the issue of press freedom yet again, and the civic space, and how well can we better educate those in authority to understand that without the press, then it's possibly a draconian society.
Absolutely. I think that the measures that are being, used to check the press to ensure that they don't make jaundiced, inflammable statements. One is the NBC, but not very many practitioners are abreast of some of these codes. So I think that we should take our time as press people to also find out what the law stipulates in terms of libel, slander, so that we don't, go across, the boundaries. But in the case of, in the case under reference, I'm not sure that's the case for Daniel. But again, it's a call for society to follow due process. I mean, it's a process. If you feel maligned, you feel blackened by a publication or a TV program, a content that was put out there, follow due process instead of using the police and people who are supposed to, protect us, so to speak, to just pick up these journalists. And it's disheartening because it's easy to just even kill them in the process.
Very, very true. But most importantly, I guess it's time we should stop weaponizing the Cybercrime Act.
Right.
Yes, very true. Love to say thank you to Cyril Abaku for being part of our show today.
Thank you.
Thank you for the incisive discussion with you. And also love to say thank you also for taking our time to be part of our show today. It was really a splendid time having you. But please do well to join us on our website, www.enterprisetv.com. Like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry.
And I'm Chinyere.
On behalf of the entire team, thank you for watching. Bye-bye from us.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.